Well, it's official. I'm being told by my boss to start thinking about an exit strategy just because I can't afford the crazy expenses my job wants me to pay on their behalf. For those of you who haven't seen the last video on this topic, I encourage you to go watch it on my channel, then come back to this one if you want the full update. But to make a long story short, work set out a new policy requiring me and all of the employees to pay thousands, about 10 grand in my case, worth of expenses per year anytime we travel for their work trips. And even though it gets reimbursed every 2 to 4 weeks, I'm simply too broke to do that. I explained my situation to HR and asked them to pay for some of the bigger expenses, like they were already doing before, but they refused. Now that we're all caught up, what's the latest story? Well, I'll go over that now, and we'll also discuss some of your questions in the comments on the last video, especially the ones asking why I don't simply get a credit card with a high credit limit. Last week, we had 2 events pop up, both out of state, and I was told that they expected me to go out and travel and film them. And when I say pop up, I mean I had a week's notice. When I reminded my manager that I don't have the money to cover the travel fees up front, such as a plane ticket plus the massive luggage costs for the large amounts of equipment I have to haul around, the rental car, the food, the hotel, well, she hopped into a meeting with our director to see how they could, quote-unquote, resolve it. Apparently, people still didn't understand or believe me when I said me not paying for this stuff isn't a preference, it's simply impossible because the money isn't in my bank account. Later that day, my manager shoots me a text and says the 2 shoots are canceled and that I'm no longer required to attend the events. I joked with her and said, well, that's one way to solve the problem. And she responded with, it will handle these 2 events, but what do we do for the big events at the end of the year? What's the plan? As if I'm the one who's supposed to come up with a plan to make these payments for them. Like I'm the one with all the money in this situation. So I responded with, well, that's the question, isn't it? What is the plan? Me paying for all of this is impossible. And if it sounds like I'm a broken record, that's because I feel like I'm a broken record. Well, she came back and told me what I was fearing. She said she didn't want to lose me, but she knows work isn't budging on this new policy, and if I can't afford to travel for the company, then I need to come up with an exit strategy. This is the reality of corporate America in 2026. Companies are so money hungry that if their employees can't foot the bill on their own, they are too broke to work there. That's what it feels like. That's what I'm experiencing. I feel like we've dropped so far, and nobody's really doing anything about this. In fact, way too many people are encouraging stuff like this. But I want to say I'm not going to quit, and a lot of it has to do with the current job market. I mean, I've been looking at jobs on Indeed and ZipRecruiter, and let me tell you, it ain't good. I can literally apply to 20 different jobs and not hear back from a single one of them. Funny enough, I also started getting a lot of spam calls after brushing off the old resume. I wonder why that is. Surely these legitimate companies aren't farming data on job application sites for a quick buck, right? That sounds downright un-American to some people. So if I quit, I'm SOL. But if I get fired, at least I have the option for unemployment, which will cover about 40% of my paycheck. So still SOL, but slightly less, I guess. Let me give you a little insight to how dysfunctional this company actually is. So I've worked at this place for almost 3 years. And the turnover rate is so bad that I'm one of the longest lasting employees in the entire company. I'm talking like top 10 out of potentially 100 plus employees. Well, last year, I was told I needed to write my own job description. Yeah, if you did the math, that's 2 years. 2 years into the company, they're asking me to write my own job description because they didn't have one for me. And no, I know what you're thinking. This isn't for them to hire a replacement for me. This was because of another issue I was bringing up that they were trying to cover their own butt because they said, oh, he doesn't have a job description. We don't have anything to fight back with. That's another story for another time. But I will say I have all of this in writing too. So if I ever need to contact a lawyer, which I may, then at least I have some things to show them. But back to the topic at hand. Many of you in the comments are pointing out that the company I work for likely can't afford to pay for these expenses up front, pretty much saying they broke. And that's essentially why they're pushing employees to pay for everything. While I can't confirm that for sure, I don't think you're far from the truth. I've learned that the company borrows money every year to make ends meet. They always pay it back, but they're consistently borrowing money to keep cash flowing. Now, I'm not an expert in business, so this may be common practice, I don't know, but to me that feels like the company isn't super profitable. Either that or they're being really shady. And if you want to know something else that really gets me mad, it's as I'm making this video, I was informed the sales team and top level execs are on a sales retreat, spending thousands of dollars to essentially sit around and discuss topics that could easily be an email or a Zoom call at best. And of course, after the little bit of work they've done, they go out to these expensive dinners and get hammered every night. And yes, I know this for a fact because they used to make me go to these things. It's similar to the big shows I have to travel to, except here they're just blatantly wasting money, and there's no real return on investment because there's cheaper ways of getting the same information out there. And speaking of those big shows and wasting money, let's talk about the big client dinners they do for everyone. One company dinner can cost this company upwards of $25,000. One dinner, out of God knows how many dinners throughout the year. Let's say like fewer than 100, but definitely more than 20. So this company refuses to give up one business dinner a year to help its employees pay for things that the company themselves should be paying for. I mean, that one dinner covers 2 months of my expenses, and it's just one way to show how the company throws money around in places it isn't necessary. Now, the dinners themselves are fine in theory. Like, take your clients out and give them a good time, build trust and camaraderie, all that good stuff. But we're talking about multiple dinners like that in a year. I just think we could spend our monies in better ways. Like, can we maybe not spend the equivalent of several annual salaries so we can put that money elsewhere, or maybe even save it so we don't have to keep borrowing money every year, or, I don't know, force our employees to shell out thousands of dollars? Okay, deep breath, Mickey. You're getting sweaty again. Finally, I want to address the 3 main questions I keep seeing in the comments of the last video. Number 1, is this legal? Unfortunately, at least in the state I live in, yes, what they are doing is legal. I'm also learning that because I live in an at-will state, which means they can essentially fire me for almost any reason they want, if I get fired for not being able to pay these crazy travel expenses, that too is likely legal. I'm still looking into the actual legality of it to make sure I understand everything, but right now from what I see, it does look like the company is completely within its rights. To those of you who don't know how US labor laws work, there are a lot of laws in the US that benefit the employer far more than the employee. Question number 2, my favorite. Why don't you do something about it instead of coming to the internet to complain? Well, I'm trying to do something about it. Me and one other person in the company seem to be the only ones speaking up about this, though from what I hear, there are many in the company who are just as upset as we are. But I guess they're too afraid to say anything. Either that or they likely don't travel as much, or they don't need to pay for as many big expenses as I do. But the issue is, if my friend and I are the only ones complaining about this new policy, well, in the company's eyes, the policy isn't the problem, we're the problem. But I'm going to keep challenging this issue until they give in or fire me. But I do hope it doesn't come to me losing my job like my boss strongly suggested, because I work hard and I do a lot for them. And I hope they remember that when the time comes. Then again, in 2026, does company loyalty still exist? And number 3, the big one. I see this one the most in the comments. Why don't you use a credit card with a high spending limit and take advantage of all the points and cashback rewards? I keep seeing comments like this one, and it's like I'm talking to a wall. People seem to really not understand. Yes, I have a credit card, and it has a $6,000 limit on it. And out of that $6,000 credit limit, I only have about $1,000 of spending room on it. And yeah, that sucks. I'll be very open here because I know I'm not alone and that there are people in a similar or even worse financial situation than I am. But I'm paying off a lot of debt that I've unfortunately accumulated over the past 5 years, more than what's just on the credit card. And while I'm making progress into getting that paid off, it still is going to take some time for me to reach financial stability, though I do hope to be there in another year or so. So with that knowledge, for everyone thinking I'm too dumb to take advantage of my situation, I literally can't right now. And yes, that's mostly my fault, but the reality of the situation is I just can't get a high credit card limit overnight. And that leads to my real issue here. I don't care if the company offers the option to people who want to pay on their own cards and take advantage of those benefits. If you can do it, then do it. Absolutely. Where I'm coming from is that not everyone is in that privileged position, and the company should not expect everyone here to be financially stable enough to make those large purchases, especially in the current state of the US economy. I mean, be real with me. Have you seen the gas prices out there? Have you seen the cost of groceries? Have you seen the rent hikes? I mean, my rent has gone up every year in the last 5 years. My rent cost an entire paycheck at this point. And I'm paying on the low end of rent costs where I live. So please forgive me when I say it should not be my responsibility to cover the travel expenses for a company that I do way too much for already. A company's financial burden shouldn't fall on any employee, and it's insane that I'm even having to say that to some of you. I thought we'd all be on the same page here, but some of those comments in the last video were very concerning. Oh, and to add some icing on the cake here, if you want to hear something really funny, another slap in the face here that I didn't get to share with you all yet was the company-wide email HR sent out after I opened up about my financial situation to her. The conversation I had where I explained what broke meant. I can't show you the email or the graphic that she sent out because it has the company in it, but this is what it is. So what they've called it is an everyday savings guide for the team. How to save on gas by using stuff like Waze navigation plus gas prices. Lower your grocery cost, easy way to save money weekly. Look for rewards, coupons. Use Upside to get grocery cashbacks in certain stores. Free and low in cost fun. Going out and about, parks, trails, community events, farmers markets, free concerts and festivals, library events, movie or game nights at home, free YouTube workouts. Now, this is all fine and for sure good advice, and part of me appreciates the email. But it came at a very particular time that reads as, instead of the company wanting to help its employees in a time of need in this country, you're telling us to tighten up our spending in our personal lives while also forcing us to pay for expensive work trips. I mean, how tone deaf can you be? That's the most out of touch thing I think I've ever seen at any company. So there it is. I'm pretty sure that if not now, then come October when the heavy traveling is supposed to pick up again, I'm likely going to lose my job over this. But I'm going to keep fighting the good fight here. Thank you all for watching. If there's another update, I will let you all know. But for now, I want to get back into talking about stories and having discussions with you all. I'm still experimenting with this channel and the content I make and what you all respond really well to. But I don't think I want to be the guy complaining about work all the time because it's honestly just kind of depressing. At least not complaining about my work. Please do consider subscribing to the channel and giving this video a like. Each like and subscriber is helping me get one step closer to finally leaving the corporate world. What a dream. Later.